Sandra, welcome to another episode of Asexualize, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already, hit that great big subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now, post a new video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find the content useful, helpful, and insightful in any way, shape, or form. So in today's video, I want to discuss the difference between grey asexual and demisexual. And as you can hear, I live next to a train station. Do you have to excuse the noise? So yes, this was a question I got asked in an asexual group. They asked me specifically to answer this question, so I did. But I thought it'd be very good to actually say for you on this channel what that was. So some people get confused between grey asexual and demisexual. And in this title of this video, I put what's the difference between a grey asexual and a demisexual asexual. The reason why I've done this is because when I was a speaker at the UK Asexuality Conference in 2018 in London, I had a person who I met on the train and they were taking part in Pride because it was Pride at the same time. And she was a lesbian and she classed herself as demisexual, but didn't class herself at all as asexual. So there appears to be some overlap between those who actually don't class themselves as asexual, but they're demisexual anyway. And a lot of the time, demisexuality is usually known to be part of the asexual spectrum. What we do have to take into account is how people identify themselves that matters. Excuse me. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. So, it's very important that we find out. I've done videos as well on something called phrase sexuality before, phrase asexuals. And some of those people who identify as phrase sexual don't actually identify with the asexual spectrum. They feel they're more on the sexual spectrum. So you have to understand that there might be some overlaps here. But in general, asexuality encompasses grey asexuals and demisexuals. And also phrase asexuality is known as part of the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum. The grey part of the asexual spectrum, if you think about like a long piece of string, and at one end is the pure asexuals, the ones that don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever at all. They're really not interested in sexual activities. They're just really not interested in any type of sex or that type of thing. And then you go all through to the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum before the sexual spectrum begins. So before the heterosexual, for example, bisexual, pansexual, homosexual, before those sexual spectrum begins. So you kind of think asexual, grey, demi, then sexual. So it's easy to kind of understand why some people who identify as a sexual person rather than an asexual person, some people like to call sexual people allosexuals. I just like to refer to them as sexuals. That's the way I view it. Sexuals versus asexuals, if you like. But allosexuals is a term usually used for all the people that aren't asexual. Stevie, hi Sandra, have you ever heard of I have heard of that word, but I can't say it. Apothesexual. Yes, I have heard about it. I saw a video about it and it means someone who is sex repulsed. Yeah, I just use the term sex repulsed for me. I don't use that term because in order for like people to understand, it's easier for me to say I'm sex repulsed, do you know what I mean, than a word that to most people they wouldn't understand what it meant. But I have word I can't even pronounce it very well, so you can tell how it wouldn't be very suitable for me to use it. But I just like to call myself a sex repulsed asexual. It's very easy, basic language then. But thank you for your question, Stevie. I appreciate it. So if we think about like the grey end of the asexual spectrum is a more sexual end of the asexual spectrum. Now, obviously, you might be thinking if asexuals lack sexual attraction and they're kind of like stereotypically known for not wanting, liking, or needing sex, then how does the grey asexual part come into the asexual spectrum? What is the asexual spectrum? So the asexual spectrum is the term used to describe all the different types of asexuals that exist basically, and they're on a spectrum from those who experience zero sexual attraction up to those who experience little sexual attraction or under rare or limited specific circumstances. So if we go more into that now, into more detail, the grey asexual end of the asexual spectrum is not pure asexuals, hence the term grey, right? Because they've got grey areas, they're not pure, if you know what I mean. They're not like white and pure. So in terms of their sexuality, you know, they've got these grey bits going on. And the reason for this is because these grey asexuals, they do experience sexual attraction, right? But the sexual attraction is not normal or usual for them to fit into the sexual spectrum. So grey asexuals experience sexual attraction, but only basically in limited, rare, or specific circumstances. That's one type of grey asexual. Or they experience it, sexual attraction, but not enough to want to act on it. Now, in a previous video, I mentioned to you, you can see there's two different, very distinct types of grey asexuals. Those that do experience sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, and those who do, but they don't want to act on it, so they don't actually want to have the sex. But obviously, in these two types of grey asexuals, you'll get loads and loads of different varieties. So, for example, someone who experiences sexual attraction but not enough to want to act on it, that could be someone who experiences a hell of a lot of sexual attraction, but there's no desire to act on it with some person, right? And then you could get someone who mildly experiences sexual attraction. It's so low that it's not enough to act on it, right? So you've got two, they both don't want to act on it, but there are people that may experience a lot of sexual attraction, but it's not enough to act on it for some reason. Maybe they are a sex repulsed grey asexual, for example. So it's very, very interesting. So the ones that are grey asexuals, limited, rare, or specific circumstances, again, the rareness could be like once every few years they've experienced sexual attraction, or maybe they've experienced it just once in their life, right? Whereas some other grey asexuals, they might experience sexual attraction frequently, but it's not enough to want to act on it. So it's very difficult when you see there's these two kind of different grey asexuals, ones that don't experience any sexual attraction like normal sexual attractions because they only experience in limited, rare, or specific circumstances, but there's other ones that don't experience it but not enough to want to act on it. So you've got to understand that when you go in different asexual groups, you might get two people identifying as grey asexual and they're completely different. One who does want to have sex because they experience it in limited circumstances could be with certain types of people, right? Just specific types of people. So this is where it gets very interesting. This is where it sort of starts blowing your mind about getting in really deep, because this is how you start to unravel the mystery of why there's so many different types of asexuals and why there's quite a lot of uproar sometimes in the community from the people that are completely sex repulsed, like, what the hell are you talking about, sex, because that's disgusting, to the ones that are very sex positive and like, well, yeah, I can enjoy it as an activity to do. This is why there's so much kind of conflict sometimes and so much discrepancy, because each person will obviously feel differently and their circumstances will be different, and they can interpret the meaning of the actual label, if you like, how they want to for their own specific circumstances. So this is where it gets quite tricky, you know, like the rest of the world is mostly heterosexual and they don't really go into all these details about how sexual they are, how they're not. They're just always known as heterosexuals. And it's only within asexuality we dive deep into these things. Stevie, there is also lithsexual, I think that is the correct term, where they have sexual fantasy but have no real life attraction. Yeah, there's another term. There's lithsexual, but there's another word for it as well. I can't remember what the other word is for it. But sometimes there's like 3 different terms to describe one type of person. Like the apothesexual and sex repulsed mean the same thing. And you know what I mean? But there's 2 different words for it. And this live sexual, there's another word for it. There was 3 words, I believe, for when they have sexual fantasy but no real attraction. Autocorosexual, yes, that's the one I was thinking of, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so there's so many different terms, and the thing is people keep creating new terms as well. That's why it's very difficult as an asexual community to be taken seriously sometimes when all these new labels keep coming out. You know what I mean? It's kind of I think it's important because it's important for the people to have a sense of belonging and have a sense of feeling valid. But I also think it's very difficult when you've got so many new kind of labels coming up that didn't exist before, and then all of a sudden they are. And, you know, if you're trying to explain to a sexual person what asexuality is, they're not really going to understand what live sexual is and apothesexual is. And, you know, it's easier to say, I have a sexual fantasy, but no real life sexual attraction to anyone. I don't want to do, you know, like, I don't want to have sex with real people, only in fantasies, you know. It's easier to explain to a sexual person what your type of asexuality actually is. Like, I'm asexual, but I'm sex repulsed. I'm asexual, but sex favorable. I'm asexual, but sex neutral. I'm asexual, but I fantasize about sex, but I don't actually want to have it. Do you know what I mean? It's much better for the outside community to understand us if we use basic plain language like a 5-year-old would understand. Obviously, we wouldn't be using these words probably with a 5-year-old because it's got the word sexual in it, which again can be actually censored and stuff, you know? But, you know, which is kind of weird because, you know, you find out in science and stuff at school the word heterosexual, no doubt. I think there was something offensive about some of the terms, but I'm not sure why. Yeah. It's like I talk about Cupio romantic on here and Cupio sexual and Cupio romantic. And Cupio romantic, a lot of people in the past, from what I understand, have tried to invalidate Cupio romantics as something that's not real or true. And I'm like, what gives you the right to say it's not real or true when you're part of a minority sexual orientation asexual anyway? Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And I've met Cupio romantic. I mean, I've video chatted with the Cupio romantic. I used to be friends with him for a long time. I've had private messages from Cupio romantics. Actually, they're actually quite happy that I give visibility to them, you know. But Cupio romantic, I think, was a term that some people just went against. But yeah, you know, it's a Cupio romantic isn't on the grey asexual end of the spectrum. It's actually on the aromantic end of the asexual spectrum. So I'm going to start confusing people in a minute. But Cupio romantic is someone who experiences romantic attraction. Sorry, a Cupio romantic is someone who doesn't experience romantic attraction, but they still desire a romantic relationship. A Cupio sexual is someone who does attraction, but still desires a sexual relationship, which will be on the grey end of the asexual spectrum, the Cupio sexual bit, actually. So yes, it's very interesting. Going on to demisexual now. So how different is grey asexual to demisexual? Well, demisexual, in case you didn't know, is part of the grey asexual end of the asexual spectrum. So you've got this piece of string that's like got the asexual spectrum on it before it meets the sexual spectrum, and you've got grey asexuals. Grey asexuals is like another spectrum within the asexual spectrum, and demisexual falls under that. So if you think of the piece of string, you in terms of romantic attraction, you've got grey romantic. It's on the aromantic spectrum. So you've got aromantics have got their own spectrum within the asexual spectrum, and then you've got the grey asexuals have got their own spectrum within inside the asexual spectrum. So you've like got 3 spectrums in one, if you know what I mean. And within the grey asexual spectrum, demisexual comes under that spectrum of the asexual spectrum. So a demisexual person is someone who can only experience sexual attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed. Only. They can't experience it else. A true demisexual cannot experience sexual attraction unless a deep emotional bond has been formed. So this is very different to heterosexuals that might choose to have an emotional connection with someone before they have sex, but they're choosing that. A demisexual doesn't have a choice. They cannot experience sexual attraction unless they form a deep emotional connection. Usually it's got to be reciprocated as well, maintained and sustained in my experience of managing a demisexual and grey asexual group, right? So it gets quite complicated. So you've got the asexual spectrum, then within the asexual spectrum, you've got the aromantic spectrum, and you've got the grey asexual spectrum. See? And this is, it gets quite complex. And then within those, you've got all the subcategories. So this is how it ends up being woven like a big spider's web, if you know what I mean. Thank you for the thumbs up, because it's interwoven. And then obviously when the demisexuals and grey asexuals end is when the sexual spectrum starts. But sexuals don't usually think like us. They don't usually think, oh, how sexual am I? They don't usually separate, like, this person wants sex once a week, this person wants sex 5 times a week, this person wants it every day. They don't actually work like that. That's not how heterosexuals work. I've been in heterosexual relationships for years of my life prior to finding out I was asexual in 2014. My last long-term relationship with a heterosexual person ended in November 2011. I've been sex-free 10 years this November, so I'm really happy about that, because I don't want sex again. And so, yeah, this is how it can get quite complex, though. And then you've got all these subcategories and other categories. And, I think there's about 200 probably or more, and and people will be long chains of things. So my actual identity that I like to label myself with Percy as I'm a heteromantic, hyper-romantic, grey A, asexual, younger cougar who doesn't like sex, just kissing. But I'm not actually a textbook grey A. I have great areas of kissing and high levels of arousal, but zero sexual attraction. So I'm not actually a typical grey A. So grey asexual, grey sexual, and grey A and grace, 4 different words to describe the same or similar thing. But basically, they used to describe the same thing, which is what I've said to you. Someone experiences sexual attraction, but not enough to want to act on it, or someone experiences it in limited or specific circumstances. I don't have any of that. But in my asexual perspectives book, if you've ever read it, you'll know I redefine grey A to mean grey areas. So, for example, people like me who actually experience arousal and have sexual behaviour but no sexual attraction, this is not an officially recognised redefinition. I think it should be redefined that way. I think having 4 things to describe 4 labels to describe the same thing is a bit ridiculous, and grey A would be better spent being grey areas, like I suggest, like my grey areas, for example, or anyone who experiences high levels of arousal or has sexual behaviour, but I'm not actually textbook grey A, but I like to add that because I just think that the majority of normal heteromantics, for example, that heteromantic is an asexual person who experiences romantic attraction towards the opposite gender or sex, but no sexual attraction. So the typical heteromantic, for example, they don't usually, in my experience, have the sexual behavior like I do, and they don't usually have the high arousal levels. Most people are usually more on the grey asexual end of the spectrum. This is in my personal experience. You might know otherwise. And so, I don't feel comfortable just calling myself a heteromantic. But obviously, I don't experience any sexual attraction, so I really don't fit in anywhere exactly in terms of like my behavior not being typically what I would expect personally an asexual to be like. But obviously, as we know, sexual behavior is not the same as sexual attraction. An asexual could have sexual behavior but 0 sexual attraction. It doesn't stop them being asexual. I mean, I can kiss for up to 3 hours and never want sex. It doesn't compute in my brain. My body is geared towards kissing. It's very aroused by kissing and thinking about kissing. It isn't geared towards sex, And so that's how come it can be very difficult for me, for example, finding a relationship match, because sexuals want sex and the kissing is usually a prequel to sex, and I'm not interested in sex. I was on Facebook dating briefly. I tried it for I don't even know, I think it was a few days, and then I've decided to come off it again because I thought I was over the Indian asexual guy that I liked, but I met this Indian guy last night who wasn't asexual on Facebook dating, and I started talking to him, but I got really upset about the asexual Indian guy that I thought I was over pretty much. I still think I'm getting over him because his face is fading and stuff, and I'm thinking I need to move on, and there are other guys out there now. But clearly, if I was getting upset, then it's not, I've emotionally, obviously, I can't be over it yet. So I decided to come off Facebook dating again for now. It takes a lot of time up anyway. But, it's interesting talking to different guys. I always get to talk to different guys on there, Indian guys, which I do like, but just none of them are right for me because they're sexual on Facebook dating, sadly. Um, but yes, I digress. But I was just saying, how difficult it can actually be for grey asexuals, for example, or people who identify on the grey end. It can be very difficult to get a relationship because you're kind of in between. Stevie, asexual dating can be rough. Yeah, Stevie, it's something I've been trying to look for my Indian asexual soulmate since 2014. And this year I thought I found him back in June. He led me to believe he felt the same way in the beginning, and then it kind of all fell apart, and clearly he wasn't the right guy for me, and so that was kind of disheartening and upsetting because I really thought it was him, like all the feelings I'd had for years came to him, and that was really difficult. He didn't live in my country, but he has lived here in the UK in the past, and in the beginning we was like he was going to come over here anyway, likely after he finished his studies. And then he kind of changed his mind, but he was thinking about coming over here before I met him, so I didn't really get that, but never mind. Anyway, it's what it is, so I deserve better. I deserve a guy who'll love me forever and for who I am and want to spend lots of quality time with me and stuff like that, which he didn't want to do in the end. So, onwards and upwards. But it is difficult. It's very difficult because when you've got grey areas, you kind of like for me personally, I'm definitely not sexual in the sense that I have nudity repulse, so I don't like a guy to see me naked. Which for sexual people, they really like to see naked body. They like to touch a body, right? I don't like any type of sex whatsoever. Even though I've done a lot of the different types in the past, not all. And so, it's just kind of really difficult. I love seeing videos on YouTube with asexual people falling in love, and it is so great to see. Yeah. I mean, I've got my best asexual friend, I actually found their partner for them on asexualitic.com, and they've moved to live near their partner now, so I'm really glad about that. So yeah, and I've got a friend, asexual friend, who's married to his asexual wife. So I do know asexuals that, are with other asexuals, and I love it too. I think it's incredible. I want everyone to be happy. There was an Indian guy that was my friend. He still is my friend on Facebook, but he's not asexual and he's found a girl now. So I did like him more than a friend, but he did say that we're not suitable because like he's not asexual and he likes sex, basically porn and stuff. So fair enough, isn't it? But I do, I still, I still do believe in true love. I still do believe eventually I'll find the right guy for me. Sometimes love being single so much, and I don't know if that's like such a contradiction. The reason I find it difficult to find someone because I just do love being single actually a hell of a lot. I'm very independent. I don't want to live with a guy. I don't want to have sex with him. Don't want marriage. Don't want kids. I do like living on my own. I like being like that. I like dating myself. I've got to date myself more, but I've had my ankle break, which is unfortunately still recovering, and that means I haven't been going out much. So, but I do love it when other people are in love. Even if I don't find the right guy, as long as everyone else is like happy with their loves, I'm really happy for them. But I would love to meet. I mean, I want an Indian guy. That's the thing. I really want an Indian guy. I just love Indian guys. I can't help it. It's just like I feel like I'm at home with them. It's really difficult to describe, even though they're not all good. I know that a lot of them sexual ones aren't good, but I just feel like at home with them, if you know what I mean. But having said that, I won't overstep my boundaries for them. You know what I mean? I don't do things just because they're Indian. I think sometimes they think I might do, and I'm like, no. Like I was talking to an Indian guy from Facebook dating, and we established we weren't suitable in a relationship, but we could still be friends. But by the end of the conversation, he's saying, "Oh, I still want to come down and see you. Hope that's okay." And then he was on about staying at my place. I'm like, no, why would you even ask to do that? Like, I don't even know you. I haven't even video chat with you. I haven't heard your voice. I don't know you, and I wouldn't have a guy in my home anyway. So he's like, oh, because I'd like to explore other places. I'm like, well, you've got a car. You said you're coming in a car, so you can sleep in the car. I'm like, why would I have someone in my home? I wouldn't. So yeah, that really put me off. And then I deleted my Facebook dating profile after that. And also because I was still upset about the asexual guy from June. So which I thought I got over him, but clearly I haven't fully got over him. But yeah, I do think it's wonderful, Stevie, you know. I do think it's very difficult though for the people on the grey asexual end of the spectrum. I think it's hard because they're sort of in between. Usually grey asexuals are known as in between asexual and sexual. That's what they're usually known as. They're stuck in the middle. But with me, I'm not stuck in the middle as in I don't experience any sexual attraction, but I'm stuck in the middle because my behaviour I wouldn't say is a typical asexual at all, you know? Stevie, I think as asexual people, we're more out to find true love, unless we are also aromantic, rather than just searching for sex like sexuals. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Stevie, 100%. You know, I'm definitely with you on that. I totally believe in true love, like pure, true, deep soulmate connection love, you know? That's what I want. There's so much artificial love in the world, I think, superficial and artificial. It's not really deep down. That's why it was very difficult for me to separate myself from the asexual guy in from June because I had a deep emotional connection with him, I thought and or I felt that at the time. And so, you know, it's very difficult for me to kind of like completely cut away from that. I still don't think I'm 100%. Well, I got upset last night and I didn't expect to, so I'm still obviously not 100% cut away from that. I'm better than what I was. I just think I can get a guy who can treat me much better than that. But yeah, I'm totally like I want to have my soulmate, my best friend, love my. I have got 3 best friends. It's not like I'm lacking in best friends, but you know, I've always believed that the guy I end up in a relationship with will be my ultimate bestest ever friend, deep soulmate friend, romantic deep soulmate friend. You know, he'll be the best friend, the love of my life, everything rolled into one in that respect. I don't expect him to be perfect, but I believe he'll be my best ever friend, my soulmate, the love of my life, all wrapped into one, and they'll be as much into me as I am into him. At the moment, you know, it's like kind of like I have a lot of love. I'm naturally a loving person, so I have a lot of love to give a guy, and it kind of like overflows out of me sometimes. And I can obviously give it to the people on this channel and all my asexual followers and people like that, which is great, you know, like you and that, which is amazing. But I do like have this romantic thing in me. It's very difficult because I'm hugely romantic, hyper romantic, and I've kind of like want to show my romantic affection for a guy, and there's no guy for me to do that with. You know, and be good, you know. I'm not talking about sexual guys, you know, just want one-off things, you know. And also I'm very sensual. I'm not sexual, but I'm very sensual with the guy's top half. And I just adore kissing. Like this week I've been getting kissing sick again. Like it's a very rare phenomenon, I think. I don't know. Many people have what I have, but I actually start feeling sick that I haven't kissed in ages. It's a very, very weird feeling. Very strange. And it does make you feel like really sick and like, oh, I really need to kiss now. Obviously, I'm not attracted to women, I'm only attracted to guys, and I don't have a partner. And I used to go clubbing and kiss guys in the end because it matched my kissing needs. But now I can't have the vaccine because I got multiple allergies and intolerances. And in the UK, they're stopping people who are not vaccinated from coming into clubs. You know that you were able to get a test, either have a passport or get you know, to say you have had the vaccine or get a COVID test, but they're stopping the tests. So you either have a vaccine passport or nothing, which I think is deeply unfair, and it's just so bad in terms of discrimination against people that can't have that, you know? I'm allergic to medicines and I'm allergic to multiple foods, and I got lots of skin allergy, you know, get skin allergies and stuff, and I can't use a lot of I can't even use soap, you know, there's a amount of things. So, you know, I can't get my kissing needs met anymore in that way unless they change something, unless they bring out something for people who can't have the vaccine, like a passport for that as well or something. But it's just like crazy. It's like, how am I going to kiss now? Because obviously I don't think I'll be in a relationship for a very long time. I don't really want to meet up with a sexual guy just for kissing, because sexual guys don't just want that. They want to take it further and further and further. And if you kiss them, they expect sex, you know? And so I'm kind of like, how do I deal with that now? Because it's like I really want to kiss now and I can't kiss anyone. It's like really difficult for me, and people don't realize that. I mean, to most people it would sound bizarre. To me, it sounds bizarre. Sometimes I make myself sound bizarre about myself, but I'm like, oh well, it is what it is. And I think maybe that's obviously because, like I said, I feel like I'm not grey asexual, textbook grey asexual, but I have these grey areas, things that are kind of like strange. They're not really, they're not black and white. They're kind of grey areas a lot of the time, you know. And I don't know many asexuals or any asexual that's like me, really, truly. I haven't met any guy that's so similar as I am yet. Um, yeah, like in terms of kissing, I mean, up to 3 hours kissing, it's not really normal. Even sexuals are not used to that, you know? So yeah, it's kind of difficult. I think grey asexuals do, I think obviously it's difficult for anyone in any position who's asexual sometimes to have to deal with the trials and tribulations of their own label, of their own identity, because every type of asexual can have or encounter certain difficulties within their own label, their own identity. But I do think the people that are between, I think obviously sex repulsed asexuals, they have it the hardest in terms of like if they're romantic and sex repulsed, because like me, because you really want the romance, the kissing and the cuddling, and like Stevie said, you want the true love, right? You want to experience all that closeness and stuff, but you don't want the sex. And the majority of people out there are going to be sexual that want the romance, but you don't want sex. And so I think that's really hard. If you're a person who's aromantic and don't want any romantic relationship whatsoever, don't need a relationship, then obviously navigating relationships in terms of traditional relationships isn't going to be an issue. But obviously, you're still going to have problems like what your family says, like, why aren't you married? Why aren't you having kids? Why aren't you having a relationship? Aromantic asexuals still have those type of struggles. And then if you're sex repulsed, obviously you want the romance usually if you're romantic asexual, but you don't want the sex. And usually for sexuals, it goes hand in hand. And then obviously, if you're on the grey asexual end of the spectrum, it's very difficult to get a compatible relationship match in terms of both romance and if you're romantic asexual on the grey asexual end of the spectrum, and in terms of sexual slash physical closeness compatibility. I think it's very difficult. And I think the danger is we can get into a scarcity mindset where we think there's not many options available to us. I think it can happen with anyone who's asexual, thinking they've just got limited options. But we have to remember and keep our minds open to the fact there are thousands of asexuals around the world, absolutely thousands. 1% of the population is still thousands. And it means 1 in every 100 people you meet is likely to be asexual. There's usually more aromantic asexuals, so they're those that lack romantic attraction compared to romantic asexuals, and there's usually more women, right? So for me, I'm really romantic, I'm hyper romantic, and I'm not into women, I'm into guys, right? So obviously, I'm limited in that way as well. Stevie, also people do not realize that arrow ace people may also want platonic relationships and not be lonely, just lonely. Exactly, Stevie. I've mentioned this on one of my previous videos, but it's a long time ago. And it was to do with stereotypes of aromantic asexuals. And one of the things I pointed out is some aromantic asexuals do want a relationship. They do want a queer platonic relationship, for example. I know an arrow ace person who's been married for over 20 years to their husband who's not asexual, but I think they found out a couple of years ago he might be demisexual, but he's always identified before that as sexual. Um, so yeah, basically, it was they did, people were always on at her. I think it's a her on at them, I should say, just to be on the safe side. They're always on at them about why did you get married to a sexual person if you're asexual and you're aromantic? And she's like, because I love the person. Do you know what I mean? And, there are some people who, like I've got a new friend and he's on the aromantic spectrum. He's demi-romantic on the aromantic spectrum. and he has got a QPR now. But there are, I've met a number of aromantic asexuals that do want a platonic relationship, and by that it's actually more than a friendship to them. So it would be, they might share a bed, for example, whereas with one of their friends they wouldn't do that. However, aromantic asexual, some of them can cuddle their friends and stuff, so if you ever get into a relationship with any type of asexual, whether they're aromantic asexual or whether they are romantic asexual, you always have to ask the person where their boundaries lies, what they want and needs are, that type of thing. Stevie, there's a YouTube Celeste M who is Era Ace, and they talk about being married to a sexual. The one I know is called begin with J, I think it is. I might have seen Celeste at some point, I think. But yeah, the person I know begins with J. Thank you for the thumbs up. Lots of love. Yeah, it's really good if a person is happy in their relationship. It's very, very good. There are people that make aromantic and sexual relationships work. Obviously, aromantics are not unique to asexuality. There's aromantic asexuals and there's aromantic sexuals. So, an aromantic asexual person is someone who lacks romantic attraction and lacks sexual attraction. An aromantic sexual person is someone who lacks the romantic attraction, they still have the sexual attraction. The major difference for me with aromantic asexuals compared to aromantic sexuals in my experience is aromantic asexuals tend to have a lot more, in my personal opinion, warmth about them, and they tend to really like the deepest ever, bestest ever friendship, and they want the bond. Whereas with sexual aromantics, in my personal experience of being in groups and particularly on YouTube and seeing comments, and I follow someone who's aromantic but not asexual, they kind of just need the sex and that's it. They don't want a relationship, a lot of those. In my opinion, I've in my experience, but obviously I've got limited experience because I'm only one person in the world. The aromantic asexual people, overall, there's more of them, I would think, that's more inclined to get into some sort of relationship, even if it's just platonic, than aromantic sexuals who tend to just need the sex and they really don't want a relationship. They don't need to be bonded to anyone. They're very kind of like much more detached in that way. That's my experience so far, right? Doesn't mean to say it's everyone's experience, doesn't mean to say it's true, but I like to share my experience with you so you know where I'm coming from. But Stevie, I think asexual / aromantic relationships take a lot of devotion, which is why the ones that work so well. Well, asexual / aromantic relationships. Are you talking about asexuals with other asexuals, or are you talking about asexuals with sexuals? Yeah, I do think. I don't know if you're talking about, because you said asexual / aromantic, and obviously some aromantics aren't asexual. So I didn't know if you meant an asexual person with an aromantic asexual person, or with an aromantic person, or whether you mean something else. I got a bit confused. But yeah, so if you're talking about mixed, I think like if, for example, a heteromantic, for example, me with a aromantic person, it wouldn't work unless they were a demi-romantic or possibly romantic, for example, because I'm extremely romantic and I might even be too romantic for a demi-romantic, but I don't know. But the demi-romantics that I've met so far, the majority of them have been really romantic themselves when they form the deep emotional connection with someone. Because a demi-romantic is someone who can experience romantic attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed. So, yeah, my experience of that, they're very romantic. But if I was to just be with an aromantic asexual, a lot of aromantic asexuals, they don't want much touching. They certainly don't want a lot of kissing. Maybe a peck on the cheek if you're lucky, or peck on the lips. They don't need all the physical close body contact that I would need with clothes on. This is my personal experience. Don't forget, I come from a place of I'm just into guys as well, and this is my personal experience. I think it's, I think obviously, if you're a sex positive asexual, then it's a lot easier to be with a sexual person than than a sex repulsed asexual would find it. I was quite sad to see that, excuse me, there was one person who's asexual, sex repulsed in one of the groups, and their partner knows they're asexual and knows the difficulties they've had in the past as well, and their partner's still pushing them for sex. And they're feeling like, should I compromise because I kind of don't want to let the guy down, and I kind of want to make him happy, but I really don't want to do it. And this is the difficulty with some asexuals that get into relationships with sexuals, is the sexuals can start pressurizing after a while and making the asexual feel guilty and making them feel bad. And usually those type of relationships can't work, because if someone's pressurizing you to do something you don't want to do, you're kind of stuck. You either do it and then, hurt yourself and damage yourself emotionally, maybe physically in the process, or you don't do it and the sexual feels like you're rejecting them and stuff. Now, if they're a good sexual person, they won't be putting pressure on you in the first place, and they will be discussing stuff with you like an adult, and they won't be trying to push you to do something you don't want. But you shouldn't be with a person who's pushing and pressurizing you into something, because it's not love. It's just not love, sadly. It can't last forever like that. It's just not good. So you have to be able to like let that type of relationship go if you've had the discussions. Obviously, you should have discussions between you. Whatever relationship you're in, I always suggest having discussions, open, honest discussions, saying how you feel, give the other person a chance to say how they feel, but it shouldn't be done in a pressurizing, like, oh, well, you're rejecting me, like, why aren't you doing this, that, and the other type of way. It should be just like, this is how I feel, and it needs to be navigated. But at the end of the day, if someone wants sex a lot and the other person wants sex and the other person just doesn't want it, it's not going to work. It's better to separate however difficult it is and go your separate ways. Like for me personally, I need a guy who's into kissing. If he's not into kissing, it ain't gonna work, because it's just gonna be no good for me. However much I like him and adore him, it's just gonna be no good. I do have physical needs despite being asexual, and that's something that's often overlooked. Like, people can think, oh, you're asexual, so you don't have any physical needs. But asexuals do have physical needs. They have like needs a lot, not all asexuals, but some asexuals, a lot of asexuals, they require cuddling, for example. I'm more into kissing than cuddling, which again is quite unusual. And so, they require cuddling and, holding hands and, hugging and this type of lot, being in close proximity to each other sometimes, pat on the shoulder, pat on the back, this type of thing. It depends what type of asexual you are and how much physical contact you need or don't need. But, it's very much a big myth and stereotype that asexuals don't need any physical contact. Just like it is a big myth and stereotype that no aromantic asexuals want a relationship, because there are aromantic asexuals that want a relationship, a queer platonic relationship, or even a relationship. It doesn't even have to be a queer platonic one. Um, in terms of devotion, I do think two asexuals that are deeply in love with each other, I do think they have like devotional love to each other. I think I've read quite a few people though, like I've read quite a few forum threads and stuff where asexuals have had a relationship with another asexual and it just hasn't worked out. And I'm thinking, oh, that's so sad, when that happens. And I think, like when you find the right asexual person, if you are asexual, I just think it's bliss, because it's a very sacred type of love that you can't really get around the world. You know what I mean? Because we're 1% of the population. To find that other 1% right person for you, it's just so special and magical and rare. But some people let that opportunity go. Some people, they don't even see what's in front of them. I know of people that have let special opportunities go, or they just don't see it. It could be in front of their nose still, and they still don't see it. They're like, oh, I wish I could have a relationship. I'm like, but someone likes you, don't you know that? You know what I mean? It's like, but I do find with some asexuals, they just don't actually want a relationship in reality. They think they do, but when it comes to actually saying, okay, let's have a relationship, it's kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do. I don't really want one now. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of sad sometimes. But for the asexuals that really do want a relationship, they do find their partner in the end usually. So there's a guy I'm friends with on Facebook who I met through ASAP. We don't usually talk now, But ASAP is a dating app for asexuals. Unfortunately, it has a lot of spammers on there, but there's, you can still meet people on there that are genuinely asexual. And anyway, this particular guy, he's on the grey asexual end of the spectrum. He's actually someone who would require sex as part of a relationship, though. So he's a grey asexual, but is actually sex favourable, and he has now met the love of his life. I don't know if she's asexual, but yeah, I'm really happy for them because he's been searching for a long, long time to find someone for him, and he's finally got someone. And so I'm just really, really happy for them, And I just think, when you find that one special person, just hang on to them and cherish them. There's so many people that they get with someone in a relationship and then they start taking them for granted. And it's like, why don't you remember the time when you were single and the heartache and pain you went through to find that person? Now you've got them. Why do you take them for granted? It just saddens me sometimes. Not every asexual is like this. Some people just totally love each other and they're devoted to each other, and it's great. But I do see some relationships, and it's like you're just like you're not even grateful and thankful for that person being there. It's like the time they're taking to spend with you. Where's the thanks for that? You know what I mean? It's just like you should, even if you're in a relationship for a very long time, you should still be having date nights. You should be able to still appreciating the person in your life. You should be thanking them for the things they do. Obviously, you're probably not going to say thank you every 5 minutes of the day, but you know what I mean? You just like say every week, like, thank you for being you. Thanks for appreciating me. Like, thanks for being in my life, that type of thing. I think it's really important. But yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, though, this guy he's found his life partner now. I think they'll be together forever because they just seem really good together. They just seem right. So I don't even know her very much, but she friend requested me, and so it was really nice of her. And yeah, they seem really compatible. Stevie, I also think society ingrains into people's minds that relationship needs sex and romance, and if they don't have it, then the relationship is hollow and useless and won't last. Yeah, that's very damaging, Stevie. I mean, I know I'm a romantic person, but at the end of the day, you don't have to be romantic to be in a relationship. And I totally agree with you on that. I've always said this: a relationship is what two people or more, if you're polyamorous, make it. It's only up for the people in the relationship to decide how their relationship is going to be and how they define it. It's not up to an outside person, I mean, aromantic asexuals, they are deeply bonded usually to their friends. So if they have a relationship without romance, without sexual attraction, they could still be very highly effective at having relationships because of the bonds they form with people, the very deep emotional bonds they form, and the very best type of friendship they form. So they are equally entitled, if they want to have a relationship, and can equally make it work very, very well. It's very based probably more on companionship and camaraderie, that type of thing. And so it's like saying a relationship is hollow and useless and it won't last is disgusting, right? Because every asexual person, if they want a relationship, if they're into having a relationship, can have a relationship, and a successful one, whether you're romantic or you're not romantic, and even if you're touch averse, right, there's other touch averse asexuals out there in the world. Just because you're touch averse doesn't mean to say you can't have a relationship. There's a person who truly loves you is going to love the things about you, the good things, the not so good things, and they're going to be able to work with you and care about you. Stevie, I saw this marriage counsellor on YouTube who said that, and that basically we need therapy to become sexual and romantic. Oh my God. Stevie, who said that? I would not be happy if I heard that out of their mouth. As you know, I am very much defensive of asexuals. It's very disgusting. I always think to myself, what? It's very much of a reflection of the counsellor's problems. Because if they think that anyone should have therapy to become something they're not, then that says a lot about that counsellor. It says they shouldn't be a counsellor, in my opinion. But I was having a really bad experience in one of the entrepreneur dating groups, which I was absolutely shocked by. I mean, I'm still in an entrepreneur dating group, but not the other one, because I had to leave because I was just getting too much and they were making up rubbish. They were saying that I was trying to get people in my groups. It's like, why would I try and get sexuals in my asexual groups? I'm not interested in sexuals. There was one person whose daughter was asexual, and I said I have her group for asexuals if your daughter's interested in it, not her, which is fine to say. I didn't even give the link. I just let her know to tell her daughter that, you know? But they'd had apparently lots of people saying I was trying to poach them to their groups. It's like, no, it didn't happen. Show me the evidence. Show me the private messages where I got them to do this, because it didn't happen. And they couldn't, obviously. And I just decided to leave. But they wanted to change me. There was coaches and they're life coaches meant to encourage you in your life and support you to like be your best self, right? My best self is my best asexual self because it's true to who I am. Yet they were hell bent on the fact that something had happened in my childhood and I needed therapy to change myself, to make myself be sexual, basically, and to enjoy sex. It's disgusting. That's not a proper life coach. That's not even a proper counselor in my book. A person, if you should only be giving therapy to someone who thinks they've got a problem and wants it to help to solve that problem. Not someone who is happy with who they are in that respect. It's like when I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I went to the hospital and I had to see pain management specialists. Only one time did I see it. It was like a circus. It was like this woman and this bloke saw me separately, but they were both together, if you know what I mean. So I spent some time with this woman going, oh, just sit there doing breathing exercises for 10 minutes and pace yourself, like 10 times or something, and pace yourself throughout the day. That was her only advice for the fact that I'd had a life-changing condition, disability for life. That was her thing. Oh, just do some breathing exercises and pace yourself throughout a day. And then the bloke decided to see me on his own afterwards going, oh, well, we need to focus on your anxiety and getting rid of that. It's like, I haven't come for anxiety, even though I've got anxiety. I've come for the fact that I don't know how to cope in my mind with the fact I now have a disability for life. That's what I've come to you for help with. And then in the end, they decided they couldn't help me. So that was the end of my pain management clinic sessions. And so from then on, I decided to try and find the answers myself and help myself, Absolutely ridiculous. Stevie, some middle-aged men on here on YouTube. Some middle-aged man on here on some YouTube talk show. It's basically rehashed conversion therapy. I do watch a lot of, quite a few conventional dating relationship people. Well, I say quite a few, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6. There's a couple of ones that are really good and they're not, they're not bad at all. They're, one's really good advice, he's not like that. He's really good at giving sensible advice to women. But a lot of them, they just use stupid tactics anyway on their YouTube channel to gain viewers, regardless of caring about anyone on the actual channel. Like I don't think sexuals should change themselves if they enjoy being sexual. Do you know what I mean? I don't think, even though I'm asexual, I don't think sexuals should go around going, I've got to make myself asexual because I can't be sexual because being sexual is wrong. But if you flip the script, that was what it would be, wouldn't it? We'd all be saying to them, well, you need to change. You can't be sexual. It's ridiculous. It's wrong. So you need to actually become asexual. But you can't become asexual. That's the whole frigging point. Just like an asexual person can't make themselves be sexual because we're not, right? It's the whole point. We need to be encouraging as coaches, as counselors, therapists. I'm not a counselor or therapist, coach, I class myself as. We need to be encouraging people to be the best of who they are and come out more of themselves, not less. So we should be encouraging them to be more. Like if they're asexual, we should be encouraging them to be more of their asexual self. That's why I do this channel, to empower asexuals to be comfortable and confident in their asexuality. And also to get asexual recognised as a sexual orientation throughout the globe so that no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. That's my life mission, right? But it's very important that people understand that if someone's happy being asexual, then you shouldn't try and convert them or change them. It's disgusting. Because like you say, it's converting, like changing something to another. You shouldn't be doing that. You know, asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation. I really wished counsellors and therapists would wake up to this, you know? It's like, oh, there's got to be a reason why someone's the way they am. I mean, I just hope in the future years that more and more therapists and counsellors go the more holistic route, which is actually, well, more the coachy route, actually, which is actually helping, empowering people to be more of who they are, not less. Right? That's actually what a coach does. They bring out their best in them, if you know what I mean. Stevie, on September the 22nd, I get to see a counsellor for depression and anxiety for the first time. Oh, wow, Stevie. Well, I hope they're helpful for you. I really do, because I've had counselling for depression and anxiety in the past. I had two counsellors that were good, and one I saw once, which I didn't think was good at the time, but they were. And I've had a lot. I was in counselling from 17 years of age all the way through until off and on till 2014 when I found out I was asexual. When the last time I actually had counselling before this year though, I've at the moment, you know, I'm seeing a therapist now, trying to see a therapist for trauma. I got diagnosed with PTSD recently. But on top of I still got an anxiety condition as it is, but my anxiety's been through the roof lately because of a traumatic thing that I've been going through. But I'm still on this channel. I'm still happy to be on this channel. This channel is my savior. I love it. I feel so happy. Like my day, even if my morning I'm stressed and like in a bit of a trauma-induced state, by the end of the day, I'm always so much happier because I just try and forget every day. Like I'm always positive by the end of the day, which is kind of strange most of the time. But I'm able to do that because I have learned a lot of techniques over the years since 2012 and how to change your mindset around. So I can do that every day, but it's always like in the morning I wake up and my mind's not very good. And then throughout the day I have to get it better again. But then it goes through the same cycle, which is annoying because I don't want to be experiencing any stuff, but I am going through some personal stuff that I'm not allowed to say on air, unfortunately. I can't say publicly. But it's very difficult because some of it's not in my control. And when something's not in your control, you kind of feel more out of control, which kind of makes you think more scary. Do you know what I mean? But you know, I hope it's helpful for you. Like I said, I've seen a couple of counsellors that are good. One counsellor made me worse, so I had to stop seeing her. And obviously, the woman I had to stop seeing, who basically said I have to have sex in order to keep a good guy, which is how I found out asexual in 2014. And the therapy I'm currently now going under is from the exact same place that I was told by the counsellor you'd have to have sex in order to keep a good guy. So you can imagine for me, it's very difficult going back to a place again where I had a counsellor doing disgusting advice like that, which was totally out of the question and out of order, right? But I'm seeing someone else, and I've told them, they still got my records from years ago in 2014. I've said I do not want to see that woman ever again in my life. And I also saw another woman there for anxiety, and she made my anxiety worse. Well, she actually started me on depression again, feeling depressed, starting to feel depressed. I'm like, I've got through depression. I've just got anxiety, but you've made my anxiety worse and starting to feel depressed. So, but hopefully you'll get a good one, Stevie. I might be able to get a therapist eventually if they think I need it. Well, I really, really hope that they help you loads. I hope you get a good one. Some therapists are good and some therapists are not good. But I hope you get a good one for you. You know, it's really good news, you know, because people do need help sometimes, you know, like me going back to therapy, like any type of therapy after being like, I freed myself of depression in 2012. And then in December last year, I started having negative thoughts in my mind again, which is, I didn't think I'd ever do that ever after like 8 years of being free of that. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's been a very difficult time for me having to cope with those type of things again. I'm not like that all the time. And like a lot of the days I've got things going on, but usually not to that extreme because I try and just keep focusing on positive stuff throughout the rest of the day, as best I can. But I've got something going on at the moment. It's ongoing stress. And the doctor's been really good, you know. My doctor's been very supportive, and some other people have been supportive, but it's not easy, you know. But I'm really glad. I hope everything works out really well for you and they do help you. I mean, I've had in the past cognitive analytical therapy. I've had cognitive behavioral therapy. Oh my lord. I've had like most of it. Most of it didn't actually work. I like the cognitive behavioral therapy. I just started getting into that, understanding what it actually was about and might have helped, but the sessions, they only give you so many sessions, they stopped. And like the anxiety I've been managing for years, fine until something happened last year, and then it's just anxiety inducement. So I've kind of like in some ways gone backwards, but I think in life sometimes you have to go backwards in order to go forwards. I think everything happens for a reason, so I'm still a very, very positive person. I always believe as well your current circumstances don't dictate your future. So if you're going through any difficult times, maybe you're going through difficult times because of your asexuality, just understand that these difficult times will pass. You won't be forever in difficult times, right? We don't have to stay stuck forever. We just have to recognize sometimes when we need to get help and when it will be best for us. I'm the woman said to me, like, why do I want to get help now? Like, I haven't had it for years. I'm like, because I had negative thoughts, which I haven't had for years, and I thought I need some support because I shouldn't be getting like that. And I'm going through a lot of trauma in the past months. And I've found it very kind of like difficult. I mean, most of the time I'm helping myself because this person who's a therapist that I'm seeing now, she's like, well, I'm having phone appointments. I only had 2 appointments with her so far, and the next one's not for another month. So it's kind of like I'm still helping myself most of the time anyway. You know what I mean? Because it's like if I'm not talking to the person for like 4 weeks, I've got to look after myself in that time, haven't I? Do you know what I'm saying? So really, is at the moment that it's like most of the time at the moment I've had an assessment, like a general assessment and the PTSD one, um, which came out really high. It was 49 score, and the cut off for PTSD is 32 and up. So I'm really high at the moment. I thought I might have the condition because of everything that's gone on, and some kind of like behavior stuff like that's changed a little bit, and I'm very self-aware, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think there's any shame in asking for help. I think it's important to recognize if you need some help. And also we can learn things. Like, some therapists are very good and we can learn things from them, and we can learn better coping mechanisms, better way of looking at things. A fresh pair of eyes is always quite good sometimes. Stevie, I recently did a psychology course and it really helped me understand more about mental health. Yeah, I've thought about doing psychology because I know quite a lot of psychology from my personal development journey since 2012. So I do actually know quite a bit already. Not from doing a psychology course, but I've done recently. I did what was it? I did a mind course. Like recondition my mind course, but I haven't. It was like changing your habits kind of school. So I'm working on a journal at the moment. I don't know if I told you that before. I'm going to get back to the Asexual Guide to Sex book, but I had to take a few days out, a week out to do a journal because I'm doing a journal for me that I'm going to sell to entrepreneurs. And I mean, asexuals can buy it too, but it's very in depth, and that's what I've been working on for like hours today, because I'm creating it for myself, but I'm going to have it for sale on a special offer because it's really good to help mindset, foster positive emotions, more self-worth, more self-love, um, more create more happiness, productivity increase, and all this type of thing. So it's basically to do a lot of stuff. So I'm really glad you did the psychology course. Where did you do that psychology course to, Stevie? Was it an online one? I presume it was. I'd be quite interested to know about that. But I've been trying to work on my mindset a lot. It's very good that you've done that. I'm really pleased that you're like taking the initiative and helping yourself a lot, because some people don't do that. And like, you're doing everything you can. You're trying to help yourself. You're also getting professional help, which I admire. Like, I'm the same as you. Like, you help yourself and you get professional help if you need it as well. Get both. It's good. They can work in combination. The more you discover about yourself, the better life becomes, I think, and kind of like the more you understand the world around you when you understand yourself. So, and it's important as asexuals that we do understand ourselves and our asexuality, but also our life in general. Stevie, it was actually at college and originally did one in high school. Oh, right, that's really good. Yeah, I haven't studied psychology at school or anything like that. I thought to myself, like, I should, like, if I was going back to study, I'd want to probably do psychology and marketing. But I do a lot of social media marketing as it is, but I'd love to do a actual marketing course, I think. But then I know quite a lot already, so I don't know if I'll be going over old grammar. I think I'd find some stuff that I didn't know in psychology. Psychology and marketing usually go together because most people do the psychology of selling, which I haven't fully mastered yet. But yes, so that's really interesting. It's really good. I'm so pleased for you, and I'm really, thinking it's not good when that marriage counsellor said they need therapy. The asexuals need therapy to become sexual and romantic, or any aromantic people, like people have a right to be who they are. Like, no one should be trying to convert anyone or change anyone. That is really unhealthy and damaging relationships. I'm surprised marriage counselors or any coaches or counselors or therapists have this notion, because it's actually an unhealthy relationship. Whenever if you're in a relationship with anyone, where it's a friendship, a working relationship, romantic relationship, non-romantic, whatever type of relationship it is, right? You should never be trying to convert another person, because this is all to do with control and manipulation. This is the last thing you should be doing. So therapists should not be trying to convert asexuals, because that is control and manipulation, which is a very unhealthy relationship. It's abuse, basically. Like, counselors and therapists usually teach abuse. Well, they should teach it. If they don't actually, that's probably not true, because I learned about patterns of abuse from a organization rather than from any counselors or therapists, right? I did a 14-week pattern changing course. It was life changing for me. Spot signs of abuse. It's life changing. But it's just ridiculous, because any type of person who's trying to change someone to what they want them to be is coercion, manipulation, and therefore abuse. And how can therapists and counselors that are doing this stuff not see that they are abusers just as much as the people that's probably abusing the person that they're actually got in front of them, who's trying to come to them for help, Stevie, it's like I can do so much more and better spend my time rather than having / searching for sex. Yes, Stevie, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I mean, I literally spend like hours doing creative stuff and doing personal professional development. I'm doing courses usually, and and like I said, this journal I've been working on, because I did this mind course recently. I learned a lot of stuff on it, like how to change your mindset and rewire your brain. But I need a journal really to put a lot of it into practice, what I learned, because I need more organization and stability and stuff in my life. And I want to be doing rewiring my brain for success. So I've created specific positive affirmations to reprogram my mind by repeating them every single day over and over again. I've got different ones, because I've used NLP, Steve, have you studied NLP, neuro linguistic programming at all? It's not the same as psychology, but it comes into that type of realm. But I know someone who did a psychology degree and they didn't learn about NLP. So NLP is neuro linguistic programming. It's all how we can change how the mind thinks by rewiring our brain. And I'm very into it, because when I did I've done a coaching course, weekend coaching course with the Coaching Academy to be a life coach. So it was just a weekend I did, but it was still really, really good. And there was an NLP practitioner there, and he taught us how to use positive affirmations to rewire our brain, and it really did work for me. And I was like, kind of like, God, nothing else has worked, and this has really worked. So this is why, but you have to do it repeatedly. If you don't do it by repetition and keep it up, then your mind can fall back into bad habits or patterns if you're not careful. So you kind of have to keep repeating it over and over again. So that's why I'm doing the journal, to make sure that every day I'm doing this stuff. I don't know how I'm going to get on, because I don't really like being down to a set formula and schedule, but I've got to try. Stevie, that sounds really interesting. Unfortunately, I've never done NLP. Yeah, it is really, really good. I really like. I'm doing an NLP practitioner course as well. I've started doing that. I've done the first module, but I've got others to do. But I've got to finish this journal first, and then finish the Asexual Guide to Sex book. Because I keep saying I'm going to finish the book, but some things keep cropping up, and I had this brainwave that I needed to do this journal because I thought it's going to help me actually be more organised with my book and more organised with all the other stuff I have to do. And it's going to focus my mind better. And my mind needs to be, because I'm going through trauma at the moment personally, and I can change my rhyme around by the end of the day, but I need my mind to be better for longer in the day. And so I'm hoping that I believe the journal I've created will actually set me up for success, because it's got multiple tools in there that I know from studying personal development for years and professional development is going to help me. I believe it's going to be a really good tool to use. So I'm looking forward to. I haven't even finished it yet. We're already a little bit into August, which is a bit of a shame because I ideally would have liked to have had it done before the start of the month, but it's better late than never. And I really just am looking forward to starting on it and getting stuck into it. But it's going to be difficult because my brain doesn't like certain routines. It gets a bit like I don't want to do it with things specifically, but I need to discipline myself. Stevie, I have to go now, unfortunately. I've loved this topic and can't wait for the next live stream. That's fine, Stevie. I'm going to go now as well because I was just talking to you in the end on here and I've enjoyed our conversation very much. Thank you so much. Lots of love to you. Nice to see you. I hope the counselling goes well as well next month. You'll have to let me know. And therapy, isn't it? And anyway, yes, lots of love to you. Lots of love to anyone else who's been watching tonight. Thanks, Stevie. And I'll see you on the next real live stream. If you're new to this channel, or if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified of every time I go live right now or post a new video. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye, Stevie. Take care. Lots of love. Nice to see you.